Welcome to Travel Devil. I'm your host Clara Francken, and in a world full of mass tourism, we're here to talk about unconventional travel. Let's get into it. Who doesn't dream about beautiful destinations? And what if these destinations are so close to home that you don't even have to travel so far? I talked to Emma. Almost all her weekends are fully booked with trips close to her home. And she shares it all on social media. She energizes everyone looking for great tips on how to find weekend trips close to home. She also talks about the importance of local travel and more. But how did her journey start? Get inspired as we dive into everything you need to know about weekend trips. Emma, welcome to Travel Devil.
I'm happy to be here, to be interviewed by you.
Can you start by introducing yourself to my listeners?
Yes, of course. My name is Emma and I have an Instagram account. It's called EmmasRoadmap. And I discover the most beautiful places in Belgium, occasionally also across the border. You can't ignore France and the Netherlands and Germany and Luxembourg because they all have lovely spots that are also not too far from Belgium. During the day, I work at a PR agency. And then EmmasRoadmap is like my hobby turned much bigger than a usual hobby.
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to start this conversation actually with a little background story. Could you tell me a little bit more about your upbringing and what got you into traveling?
I traveled, I think, quite a lot for a child. So with my parents, we did usually 2 holidays a year. So one winter holiday, we went skiing then. In Austria or France. And then in summer, we went to a country in Europe like Portugal, Italy, United Kingdom, Germany. Yeah, I think we also went to Croatia. Just like every summer, we had a different summer holiday with my parents.
Yeah, so it's the same for me. I think even like it's maybe the typical thing to do for Belgian people. I don't know. Traveling like once in the winter to go skiing and then once in the summer to a nice holiday destination. Okay, great.
And that was just a week of going to a place and exploring it.
But how did you go from traveling outside of Europe to focusing on your own home country?
It started in COVID times, during the pandemic, of course. The months before, I was really constantly traveling because I came from Canada. Then I had a month off from university. So I went to Sweden to visit a friend, and then I went skiing another time. And then I had made plans to go to Shanghai to go on summer school. And then COVID hit, and then I was like, no, I want to travel. So, after I came back from Canada, I decided I wanted to write everything down, like my travel adventures. And then right when I bought like the domain name of the website, COVID happened. Yeah, since the borders were closed, I was just looking at what can you do in Belgium actually, because I had never visited Belgium like as a tourist before. Because I think you know it. If you're from Belgium, you're just like, Belgium is Belgium. It's rainy and, that's it. And if you go on holiday, you go somewhere sunny.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I also almost never travel in Belgium, actually. Also with my family, we would go to Sweden or we would go to Italy or go somewhere, but not really explore Belgium. Definitely not with the family. But even during COVID, actually, for the first time ever, my family and I went on a trip in Wallonia, and it was for a full week. And it was very special for us. My sisters were not so excited, but
I can imagine.
Yeah, we saw a lot of beautiful places as well. Traveling close to home, it sounds not so difficult, but actually it's also not the most common thing when you think about traveling.
True, but yeah, I just decided that maybe I should look around me a little bit more and see the places within Belgium, within like the fixed borders that we could still travel. And then I did my research. Of course, you also see things on social media from other people who start doing the same. We also have like popular places in Belgium that are also known to the public, but mostly visited by tourists from abroad, like Dinant. We all know Dinant, I think, but I had never. I always thought as Dinant as it's a place in Belgium and the foreign people visit the place because if they visit Belgium, then they go there. But actually, it's also a nice place for locals. Yeah, so I started with the places that were quite well known, and then I looked a little bit more around me and saw other beautiful places, and I started making a list of places I wanted to go, and I still have a huge bucket list now of places I want to see in Belgium.
There's so many interesting places. That's very true. And it's funny that you're talking about Dinan, because that's exactly the place where I was previously talking about with my family. We went close to Dinan.
Well, I think if there's some destinations that Flemish people go to with their families, maybe Dinan.
If they haven't been yet, they should go now.
Yes, indeed.
I don't really see using the word micro-adventure, but I would consider this way of traveling more like a micro-adventure, because for me, it's more like a small weekend trip or a day trip. That's micro-adventure for me. But I was wondering, what do you see as a micro-adventure?
I think the idea of a micro-adventure is that you can do it anytime. You can decide, this weekend I want to go there, and then just do it. It's just like a small trip. It doesn't need to be far. It doesn't need to be long. It can be anything, really. I think with micro adventures, the idea is that you can just see something if you feel like it, and maybe go camping for a weekend, or just go hiking for a weekend, or just do anything you feel like it without it being a huge burden of I have to take the plane and I have to plan everything out and I have to look at my budget because I'm going away for 1 or 2 weeks. So yeah, it's more like maybe an easier way of traveling.
Yeah, more convenient maybe. And also closer to home in general, no?
Yes. Because you don't go far, you go close to home, because if you only have limited time, you don't have the time to take the plane to the other side of the world. So it's just something, close to home, something short, something, can be adventurous, even though it's close to home. Most people don't think so, I guess.
It's also nice to hear. I didn't think about the not planning part, because it's true, like even for people who like to go like for a weekend to the south of France or to Italy or whatever, they take the plane and they go there for like a long weekend. Even this has to be planned. You have to think about the plane tickets. You have to think about location to sleep and everything. This way of traveling makes everything easier.
A micro-adventure is something that takes you out of your current environment, but not necessarily too far. So you get out of your everyday life, but a micro-adventure is different for everyone, because I like to have a little bit more comfort, but maybe someone else is the person who likes to lie under the stars at night and really go out in nature. I think for a micro adventure, first of all, it shouldn't be far, because otherwise it takes just too much time traveling and you don't have time to enjoy the moment. So not too far, not too long, because otherwise it's not micro. Difficult to explain.
No, I understand what you mean. Could you maybe tell us a story of visiting a place close to home, which was not like a big city necessarily, but a place where you maybe didn't expect that it would be so great and you really had a wonderful time?
I think most of the places I go in Belgium surprise me every time, because somehow I still think it's Belgium, and then I see, views that could be like in any other country which you don't expect in Belgium. But I think what most surprised me is my first trip. It was in the region of Dinant. But it was not just the city, it was more like the environment also. And because it was COVID, it was a lot of walking, a lot of nature. And there I saw places that I thought, whoa, I didn't know Belgium had this view. I didn't know Belgium had this nature. I didn't know Belgium had this and that. And that just really surprised me, because I thought I knew my country, but then in the end, I didn't really. So, yeah. And then recently, I also went to visit Mechelen. And I thought, okay, it's just another city. Like, it's not famous like Bruges or Antwerp or Brussels. It's not famous for really anything. But then when I visited it, I was really surprised. Like, you had this nice boutiques and you had a lot of history and it was cozy and it just really surprised me.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. But even like some people from Belgium, I know that didn't really visit Bruges. You only go to places maybe if you have a friend there. Not so many people really visit other cities as well. Yeah.
True.
I also really like it when I look on your Instagram and there's so many beautiful views. You don't expect this like, oh, is this Belgium? This could be like Slovenia or some Croatia or I don't know. Like you're thinking about Belgium, rainy weather. It's not raining all the time, don't worry. That is true. It rains a lot, but that doesn't mean that there's not many beautiful things to see.
Indeed. I think people have a huge stereotype about Belgium. Because sometimes on my videos on Instagram, I get comments like, Belgium is ugly, who lives in Belgium? It's always raining, it's shitty, nobody wants to live here. The best advice is just to move abroad. And then I think, whew, I guess you haven't seen anything in Belgium.
Those comments come from people from Belgium?
Some people saying, yes, I live in Belgium and it is ugly. And then I think, yeah, okay. Then I guess you should move to another part of Belgium. I don't know.
Or explore a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And maybe for other people who live in other countries, do you have tips to help them to find micro adventures close to their homes? Because you said in the beginning you looked at like, okay, famous cities I haven't seen yet. But at a certain time you started looking online. How did you do that? How did you find other places? And can you share some tips for people who don't live in Belgium, who cannot only go on your channel to get inspired, but want to get inspired in their own country?
So what I usually do now when I go on a trip is to look on Google Maps. Yeah, I usually first decide on a region. So like, I want to travel that region because it's not too far or because I have limited time. And then I look on Google Maps. I just zoom in like very closely on everything. And then you can see a lot of things. For example, I usually discover some ruins of castles because it's Belgium. You have a lot of castles and ruins. And then, yeah, those are the things that are not maybe even not on Google, not in the tourist office, but they are on Google Maps. Yeah, I find Google Maps very, very good for finding like the hidden gems, like the places other people usually don't go. And then what also helps, something maybe a lot of people underestimate, is the tourist office. Wherever you go, there's a tourist office and they have like all the information is there. And I don't know, yeah, it's mind blowing. You usually don't think about it. Like first when I went on adventures, I was like, oh, I want to go see that place. And then I just went there and then I actually didn't really have a lot of information, but the more that I also work with tourist offices, I see, whoa, they have like a huge pile of information of things that you can do that are also not on the internet and also not commonly done by other people.
Okay, so I learned Google Maps and tourist office. Those two places are worth to check when looking for a micro adventure or weekend adventure close to your home. And how do you do the expenses for a weekend adventure?
It depends. So I usually don't really set a budget. I look at my budget because it can be too expensive because it's just a weekend. I like to stay in like a B&B or something when I travel. So that's a little bit more expensive. And I think accommodation is the biggest cost when you go on a micro adventure. And then you also have activities. You maybe eat out, or if you rent something, you cook. It depends. Also, a huge cost is gasoline when you travel by car, especially now. And maybe train tickets.
Okay, so but you don't have a specific number. You're not like, oh, okay, so for every weekend, like I don't go above this amount of money.
No, not really. I do look at what I book. So I always want to find like the cheapest option, like the good quality price. But I don't really have like a set budget that I say I can't really go over that limit. No, I'm just flexible. I know before I go on a trip, I know approximately how much it will cost.
But maybe this also depends on which country people are living in and where they're exploring, in which side of the countries as well. So it's more accommodation, like getting there, and then activities.
And food. Well, at least if you go to restaurants all the time, then you have a lot of food expenses. But if you're just cooking, then not.
Yeah, or if it's a day trip, you can always take a picnic, I guess. Depends on how long you're going. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Just briefly, I was wondering as well, because you were mentioning before that you were working with tourist offices. Could you give me some basic insights on how does it go to work with tourist offices?
Yeah, it depends. Sometimes I contact them. Sometimes they contact me. For some trips, I have like a planned, like I have everything planned out in my head. This spring, I want to go to Limburg because it's really known for the blossoms and I want to see that place. And then I decide, okay, that weekend I want to go there. And then sometimes I contact the tourist office of that place. Can we work together? Or sometimes it's the other way around and the tourist office sends me an email and says, hey, we've seen you on Instagram. Wouldn't it be nice if you come to a region? What they do is they usually give me like options of a program from these are the nice places. We can sponsor like a visit to this museum or a visit to this place. And also sometimes some accommodations and maybe some restaurant visits or like just in general, they make like a whole program of what there's to see in that place. Usually I have my own list of places I want to visit there. And then I also look at their suggestions on, then I obviously make promotion for that region on my Instagram account. But it's also usually a region that I was planning to promote already. And I think there are not a lot of regions that are not worth promoting in Belgium because there are a lot of beautiful places. So yeah, that's how it works.
I think it's really nice for you that you were able to like have this hobby and travel, and then you shared it on social media, and now you get like benefits from it. So it's like good for you. I'm really happy to hear that. That's really great.
Yeah, it also helps. It makes me able to take more trips during the weekend because I think if I would travel every weekend, then my bank account would be very empty. And now I have the chance to still show beautiful content to my followers on Instagram, but also not be broke doing it.
Yeah, I guess it's a cheap way of traveling, but if you do it every weekend, it can be a lot. Like if you would travel like you are doing almost on a weekly basis, it would not be the cheapest way of traveling anymore, I guess.
No, indeed.
Yeah, okay. Okay, maybe we can talk a little bit about the sustainability aspect. Do you think it's more sustainable to go on micro adventures compared to conventional traveling, and why?
I think for transportation, yes, because you don't take the plane to anywhere. You stay local, so it's not too far, so you don't have those transportation costs, and you also don't have the CO2 emissions that go with it. But I think for the rest, it's not really more sustainable, because you still, you actually do the same things than when you go on a holiday abroad, but just closer to home. Maybe what could make it more sustainable is if you travel a little bit slower. So if I go on a weekend adventure, I just usually take one region, and it's a little bit, I don't have to see like 100 things in 1 week or so when I go abroad. Well, when I stay in Belgium, I see like one region or one place in 1 weekend. So it's a little bit slower and it's a little bit calmer, and maybe that also makes it a little more sustainable because you don't rush with your car from one place to the next and then, do all these things. So I don't think there's a huge difference. I don't think it's necessarily more sustainable, but for transportation, yes.
Okay, yeah, I understand. And what do you think is the impact, besides then sustainability maybe, or what do you think is the impact of traveling closer to home?
I think obviously it's good for our local economy and also for the people who rent out places. A big part is for the heritage that we have in Belgium. So a lot of places like the natural park, the only way that they can preserve the place and like the prehistoric caves and like the ruins is because people visit it. So and I think it's mostly local people that visit that place. So if we stop visiting, I think they also can't maintain the area and it goes lost. So for certain places, it's definitely good if locals also visit it, because it brings them income. They can maintain it. They can keep our history alive and keep our country alive and beautiful. And yeah, I think it helps in that aspect.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. You were saying something about like not so many people visiting some specific places. And what I think is nice about that is that a lot of people are going to Bruges. And then in Bruges, when you're there, your experience as a tourist will not be as great. Like, you will see the places, you might have your Instagram picture, but it will be full of tourists and you will not really see the place as it is. And I think maybe that's also the nice thing about traveling closer to home, or like in general, like micro adventures, is that you also see places which are maybe less known and there's less tourists. And then as well, it has an impact on like the local people, because they also need to survive. And maybe the bigger cities also want to breathe and don't want all these tourists. So it's good to create some kind of better balance.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Because you have like the huge companies and the really popular spots. But then you also have a lot of local entrepreneurs, local people who like preserve something or have an activity that they want to attract tourists to. And because they are a little bit more local, it's also more local tourists. And if you then can support those people, it's of course very good for them.
Okay. And could you give 3 mostly like unknown places in Belgium which you would suggest to visit?
I think the first place that really surprised me in Belgium was the natural reserve of Furfos. So it's near Dinant, and it's like a natural park, and it costs, I don't know, €5 to enter, and they maintain the entire park. And there are also Roman ruins in the park from Roman baths, and you have like archaeological caves in it. So it's the whole mix of a little bit of culture, and then you have the nice views, and it's like a, I don't know, 5 or 7 kilometer walk/hike. It's a little bit adventurous as well. So it's really, if you don't know a lot about Belgium, and if you know Belgium mainly for its cities, then if you visit this place, you'd really be surprised. And it's really a big surprise. And I think it's also not really well known. I talk about it a lot on my Instagram, but I think for other people it's not so well known. And the second place is maybe a little bit more known. It's Villers Abbey. So it's the Abbaye de Villers-la-Vie. So those are abbey ruins, and they are actually, I think, one of the biggest in Belgium, because there used to be a huge abbey like hundreds of years ago there, and now the ruins are open to the public and you can just visit it. And it's really impressive, because you see the whole structure of the church with like the windows, and it's just huge. And if you as a small person stand like for a huge church, like the ruins of it, then yeah, it leaves an impression. And then number 3 is a little village in Wallonia. I don't know if you know it, but Wallonia has like a list of the most beautiful villages. And one of them is Celle. And Celle is just like a tiny village, but they have like a little church with then catacombs. And it's just a beautiful region. And the center of the village is like with cobblestone streets and like limestone houses. And they have a few restaurants that are like just really cozy to sit. And I went there twice or maybe 3 times already. And then each time you just sit on the terrace and look at the flowers and the church and watch the sunset. And it's just a very, very beautiful environment.
Okay, cool. Yeah. It's funny how actually the 3 places are also in Wallonia.
A big reason maybe is indeed because I live in Flanders. I live near Bruges, and then Wallonia is a little bit further and a little bit more unknown than Flanders is. So maybe that's why. You also have beautiful places in Flanders, but I think for nature, Wallonia is a little bit better. Well, not better, but they have more like the hills and the forests and
for the beautiful views.
Yeah, the beautiful views. Well, Flanders has more beautiful cities, really, and it's more for the cities. And you can also go walking on beautiful places, and they also have nice nature, but it's a different kind of nature and a different kind of environment.
Okay, yeah. And you were mentioning a list of beautiful places in Wallonia, because I never heard of it, actually. Do you remember the name?
No. But I think the list is like on Visit Wallonia. I think there's an organization called Visit Wallonia, and they have like all the information about places you can visit in Wallonia. It's a nice resource. And they also they make these lists of the most beautiful hikes in Wallonia and the most beautiful villages in Wallonia. And it's a great resource if you want to start.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I never heard about it, actually. I only heard about a list of like the most ugly houses of Belgium or of Flanders. But I never heard about the most beautiful places in Wallonia.
Yes.
I will check it out as well. Yeah, you can send me the link maybe afterwards, and I can put them in the show notes or in the comments of the video.
Yes.
All right, okay, let's continue to the last part where I was actually going to ask you to convince me or convince anyone out there to try this way of traveling. Tell me that I should go. I should leave this weekend.
Okay, so the first main reason why you have to go is because you don't need to take extra holidays. You don't need to plan a whole week. If you want to go on a holiday, like on a weekend trip this weekend, you can just go. And most people, if they plan a long trip, they have to take holidays with their work and they have to arrange that and they have to, plan a lot of things. Well, for a micro adventure or weekend adventure, you can just say, I have 2 days in a weekend or maybe 3 days if you're lucky. Then, you can just leave and you don't have to plan a lot of things. You can just decide to go. And that's also an advice that I have for people. Just to go, because I sometimes get messages from people, I don't have anyone to travel with. I want to see some places in Belgium, but nobody wants to come with me. And then I think, that's not a problem, I guess. just go see it. You don't have to wait for anyone or wait to get holidays from your work or whatever. You can just do it compared to other trips abroad where you have to plan everything. And then also it's cheaper, obviously, because you're just going for a weekend. You don't need a huge budget. You don't need to save really for a trip. It can be cheap. It can be local. It can be camping also. So it doesn't cost you a lot of money. And you also discover the environment around you. So you may discover places that you didn't think were there, even though you've been living in your country for like a long time. There are still places that you don't even know exist that are still beautiful and worth exploring. And that's also one of the benefits of weekend trips and micro adventures, is that you learn to appreciate what's already around you. So
yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah. It's a good sum up. And do you maybe have like a specific challenge which is doable for most of us? Like a challenge for us to go on a micro adventure in the following weeks, let's say.
You can just take a map, like take Google Maps and the map of Belgium or of your country, of the place where you're living. And then you can see, okay, I want to go on an adventure. How much time do I want to travel? So sometimes I'm like, I don't want to travel far. Let's say 1 hour. And then you look at the map and you draw like a circle, like, okay, what's in the neighborhood with 1 hour of driving or 1 hour of train travels. And then you can look on the map and look up Google Maps. Maybe there's a city there, or there's a place there, or there's this thing that I know it is there, but I haven't visited yet. And then, you can just go. So my challenge is look at the map, decide like how long you want to travel, and then just draw a circle and pick a place.
All right. That's good. I will also do that. To end up, I had like 9 very quick fire questions, I call them. You don't have to think so much about it. You can answer with like 1 word or like a sentence. Doesn't have to be only 1 word, depending on the question. If you're ready for it, we can roll.
Shoot. I'm curious.
Let's go. The first one is easy. How old are you?
24.
How old were you the first time you traveled to another continent?
Continent. I think I was to Canada when I was 19 or 20. I don't remember. One of the two.
What is the longest time you've been away from home?
4 months.
Would you rather see a lot of places or get to know one really well?
That's a difficult one. I think a lot of places, because just one place is, well, it's nice, but I think the idea of traveling is that you learn to see other cultures, other places, meet other people, and then it's nice to see a lot of different perspectives.
Would you rather save money on accommodation or pay for a good bed?
Pay for a good bed.
What would you teach a foreigner who wants to learn your language?
Ooh. Maybe just thank you in Dutch, dankjewel, because I think it's the most important word. If you go somewhere to a new place that you can use, just say thank you to people, because it makes you sympathetic.
It's true. Dankjewel.
Dankjewel.
Okay. What can't you travel without?
A lot of things. I have a whole list. By now, I have a whole list on my phone ready for when I go on an adventure that I just can check all the boxes.
So you can't travel without your phone?
No. No. So the thing I can't travel without is definitely my phone, my camera also to take good pictures. My pajama, toothbrush, like all the basic items.
All right. What is your favorite travel song? Do you have one?
No, actually not. I just, when I go on travels, I just put on the radio and I sing very loudly to all the songs that pass by. But there are songs that really, when you listen back to it, you get like the memory back of when you were at a certain place or doing this or doing that. So that, yes.
All right. Last question. Why do you travel?
Why? Because I can't sit still at home, and I like to see new places. I'm just curious in general about other places, other people, other cultures, other environments. And you need. I think you need a little bit of change and excitement in your life, and by visiting new places, you get new perspectives, new insights, new ideas. So yeah.
Okay, so maybe a last question before we're really ending. We just want to know, where can my listeners find you?
Well, on Instagram, obviously, at EmmasRoadmap. Also on my website, www.emmasroadmap.com. And I think that's it. That's the main channels. I also have a TikTok account, also at EmmasRoadmap. So you can also find me there, but it's mainly Instagram and my website.
Okay, great. All right, thank you so much for participating and for talking to me. It was really interesting, and I feel like I know better now how I should travel, go on a micro adventure. I really liked your tips as well, and I will be looking closer on Google Maps. We'll be zooming in. I know my grandma also likes zooming in to Google Maps to see the places before we're going somewhere. I never really did that, but it's a really good tip, because I think like that you definitely see more places which maybe are not like the typical things one would normally see.
Indeed.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It was nice.
This was Travel Devil, brought to you by me, your host, Clara Francken. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to continue the conversation or suggest any future guests, you can go to my Instagram @Clara Francken. Take care, and I will see you next Thursday.